Welcome to Grid Live Wrap Up. Formula One, Las Vegas, Mercedes won two, and now we have a four-time Formula One World Driver Champion crowned. World Rally Championship decided in dramatic fashion on the final day, on the final race of 2024. Kobe Lambert from Grid Tonight joins me. I'm Joe Samdiego. A big thank you to our Patreon investors, calling the show, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew, for investing in the Grid Network. Link in the video description to invest. Also, one-time investment through Buy Me a Coffee and YouTube Super Chat. Very much appreciated. We'll thank you on the air. If we don't see it on this episode, we'll thank you the next time we go on the air. Right here on the Grid Network, subscribe, hit that bell icon. Kobe, Max Verstappen, he is now the sixth driver to become a four-time Formula One champion. Fifth place finish ahead of Lando Norris was all he needed to get the job done. Reflecting Kobe to his other championship years, 2021, of course, it came down to a final lap pass on Lewis Hamilton. 2022, 2023, dominated. Last year, just dominated to a level we had not seen before. In 2024, this year, a tale of two seasons. The first half, win after win after win. We thought it's over. But then the second half of the season, surviving. The car was not the fastest on the grid no more. Some would say the third fastest. How will you remember his 2024 championship season?
Well, obviously, Joe, it's different compared to the first three. 2021. Oh my goodness, I still have nostalgia thinking back to just a few years ago. That was the most amazing Formula One championship battle that we've ever seen in history, and I really wish we could get a season like that again. But yeah, that duel between Hamilton and Verstappen. A lot of people, obviously after Abu Dhabi, had a sour taste in their mouth, and some people said they didn't legitimately see Max as a Formula One world champion after that first one, despite him and Lewis Hamilton going back and forth all year long. And in 2022, 2023, like you said, absolute domination. Max was on a different level. Nobody has had anything for him, in the last couple of years or so. And in 2024, I think it's fair to say, a tale of two seasons. First half of the season looked like it was going to be a repeat of 2022 and 2023 with him locking up the championship, multiple races early, even earlier than he did, here in Las Vegas this year. And then when it seemed like, you have McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes all caught up to Red Bull, and Red Bull struggling. The car was not as good as it used to be. And we're wondering, is Max still going to hold on to this championship? And with the gap closing, it really seemed like, that he was going to have a fight on his hands. And to be fair, he did. But luckily for Max's case, he had such a strong first half of the season that he was able to manage the gap that he had to Lando Norris, and McLaren kind of came on, just a little bit too little, too late. And if McLaren had started 2024 the same way that they're running right now, it might be a lot closer than it has been right now. But all in all, looking at Max's 2024 season, I think this is a season where we're seeing, quite a bit of growth from him in certain aspects. I still think his racecraft needs a lot of work, obviously, because sometimes it looks like he doesn't really know how to race people. But I saw glimpses of potential and growth in his racecraft at Las Vegas. Because the Max, typical Max, when he saw Lewis Hamilton coming up on him, although he didn't need to fight him, you think Max, would fight aggressively. But what did Max do? Max he held his line and just let Lewis go by, because there was no point in fighting Lewis. And then with the Ferraris as well, he just let the Ferraris do their thing. He didn't even put up a fight against them because he was thinking the bigger picture here, and that's not something you always see with Max Verstappen. So hopefully, what we saw last night in Las Vegas is a sign of things to come from, where, now as a newly crowned four-time Formula One world champion, that his racecraft will improve and he'll certainly start maturing as a driver. But all in all, I think Max Verstappen is definitely a deserving four-time world champion of Formula One.
A deserving four-time champion, got the job done with a car that was not so superior. It's going to be really interesting to see how he turns out next year, because we know with the constructors, Red Bull, they're looking at most likely being the third place team behind McLaren, behind Ferrari. That means, though, they'll get more wind tunnel time than those two teams. So overall, do you think that could start helping Red Bull to come back stronger in 2025?
Looking at 2025, I honestly think that we could potentially see a more competitive season than what we saw last year. 2022, 2023. All Max Verstappen, all Red Bull. Real frustrating times if you're a fan of parity in Formula One. But first half of this year, like I just said, it looked like a repeat. In the second half of the year, really exciting and unpredictable in many aspects. And next year, hopefully, we can see McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes, can continue to keep the form that they've been showing in the second half of the season, and we can have a four-way fight on our hands all throughout next year. And ironically, in the last year of the current regulations, I would think that would be really good to give this current set of regulations a good send off by having a four-way battle. It'd be nice to have 8 drivers, with potential to win every single weekend among 4 teams. But I think it's too soon to say, how Red Bull do. I obviously think Red Bull will still be in the big three, big four of Formula One. I think they'll still be, have a car capable of battling for wins. Obviously, don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But I think, just for the sake of the sport and for parity purposes, I do think that we could see a competitive championship fight on our hands.
Next year's championship fight is going to be, I think, very competitive, as you said, potentially a big four. Of course, Mercedes, they're hoping to beat that fourth team next year, and they came out strong at Las Vegas all weekend long. George Russell just dominated this race from start to finish. Lewis Hamilton, from 10th place on the grid to second place, he had some of the fast laps over and over and over, from 11 seconds down to 5 seconds behind George Russell, many thinking we could see a battle for the lead, but that's where it just seemed it stalled out. George Russell taking the win, Lewis Hamilton second, Mercedes 1-2 finish, and the Mercedes swept the weekend fastest on free practice 1, 2, 3, qualifying, race. My goodness, Kobe. This was a nighttime race, clear conditions. Qatar, it's going to be nighttime as well, too. Abu Dhabi, we'll get in the evening. Were you surprised for Mercedes' strong run? And could they do this again in Qatar and Abu Dhabi?
To be fair, I think Mercedes were surprised too by their performance when they were asked about it. They were like, "We just don't understand like why we're so fast here." But yeah, it really seems like the Mercedes definitely does a lot better in the cooler condition. Going to the Middle East, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, you don't really know how that's going to translate over. I don't know if they're going to do it again in the final 2 race weekends of the year, but yeah, I think Mercedes has to be very excited to get a 1-2 finish under the lights in Sin City. George Russell, extremely fast, well deserved win for him. Lewis Hamilton, unfortunate situation for him because I believe throughout the weekend, he showed that he potentially had a better car than George Russell, but unfortunately, ended up goofing in Q3 qualifying. Ended up putting him down on the grid, so Lewis had to fight all the way up towards the front throughout the race. So he was kind of starting the race on the back foot there, but it would have been interesting if Mercedes had qualified 1-2 and Lewis, he looked like he had the potential to potentially get George, but unfortunately for Lewis, it just wasn't meant to be this time around. But definitely a strong result for Mercedes. Yeah, obviously they're not in the thick of things championship wise, but heading into 2025 towards the back end of the season to get a strong result like this, definitely a good boost of morale to head into the offseason when they're going to have Russell, leading the team next year, and Andrea Kimi Antonelli stepping up to replace Lewis.
Can be plenty of changes over at Mercedes. I'm really curious to see if they can keep this up because it will just make the next 2 races really exciting. Qatar, that track layout, I think we might see some single file racing, but if Mercedes is strong as they were in Las Vegas, it's going to be really hard to beat. Abu Dhabi, with the configuration of that track, might be a little bit more interesting. It's just really amazing, though. Just it almost seems the way this season has flowed from Red Bull being the dominant car. Then here comes Ferrari, then McLaren. Ferrari sort of coming back. Now it's Mercedes, that next team. Very interesting stuff in the chat room. Mercedes swept the weekend regarding practice qualifying the race. What a performance. Gotta agree with you, Adam. What a performance by Mercedes. By George Russell, too. One of the things I saw online, people talking about how many times we've seen the pole sitter not win a race this year. George Russell, pole dominated, showing how it's done when you do start up front. And this race, Kobe, Las Vegas, second year of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Of course, this is the fourth time Las Vegas has hosted Formula One. Two prior times at the Caesar Palace parking lot back in the 80s. This track, though, we saw plenty of good passing, some strategy to make it interesting. The race weekend itself, much smoother. We didn't have that water valve cover destroying Carlos Sainz's car. Overall, do you feel Las Vegas is living up to the hype and building a reputation as a must attend event in the F1 season?
Yeah, I'm definitely relieved to see that year two went a lot smoother compared to year one. Remember last year, a lot of people were very upset, saying like, "Why on earth are we in Las Vegas? That this is a mistake. That this is a stupid idea to even be here, and we should not come back ever again." But I get a different vibe this year. It's everything smooth from start to finish, and that's basically all you can ask for if you're Formula One. You want to be able to land the plane safely, and I think that's exactly what happened. So I really love the scenery of Las Vegas at night. Seeing the cars, getting getting up the speed down the Las Vegas Strip, down the Las Vegas Boulevard, and it's just very scenic. Seeing the Sphere as well, light up into different things is certainly a wonderful atmosphere, and I do think it's going to become a must attend event. And I know time and time again on this show we've talked about the Las Vegas Grand Prix potentially becoming a crown jewel event on the Formula One calendar. I still think it has a long way to go before it becomes that, but certainly, I think the track itself is really good, and we definitely saw a lot of great battles throughout the field. Cars on a different patch slipstreaming down on Las Vegas Boulevard. Thought it made very interesting to have quite a few good passing zones. And yeah, looking forward to seeing what this event is going to look like as the years go on. But I was definitely really happy to see how things are going. And in regards to it being a must-attend event, I know people who aren't even motorsports fans, and I saw them talking about the Las Vegas Grand Prix and how they want to go. I even have a classmate that I went to college with say that next year or the year after that, she wants to go to Las Vegas Grand Prix. Knows absolutely nothing about racing. That she was on Las Vegas from a business trip. Saw them setting up on the race. Saw them setting up the street course, and she was really excited. She said, "I have to go see this Las Vegas Grand Prix in person." I just find it fascinating how Formula One has been able to appeal to a lot of people who don't traditionally follow racing.
That is something I feel Formula One has really done a good job with this race. Is just getting the people that are curious to come out to the track. And overall, I have to agree. It was really good to see this became a much smoother and more positive experience, even for the locals. Of course, last year they had the massive repave effort for the Las Vegas Strip. Didn't have to do that this year. That was a little bit smoother. Some of the logistical issues, of course, first year is always a challenge. This year went a much smoother, and the fan experience, just seeing from social media, Formula One, of course, what they're posting out there, people in attendance, looks like it was a lot of fun. Along with the race, plenty of options to keep entertained, learn more about the sport, which I think is really fascinating. The ability for Formula One to say you're at this event, you're having a good time, but you're also just learning the little things like our net zero effort when it comes to carbon, everything they just seem to work out. And of course, next year they're gonna have F1 Academy. I think this is gonna be a big weekend, and it's just building up each and every year. The racing, it was good, and like Isha and I talked about last year. I mean, excuse me, Saturday. Last year's race was very competitive. We were wondering, would we see something competitive? We did. Not exactly the most competitive. Last year we had three lead changes on the track. This year we didn't, but George Russell on another league. But that Las Vegas Strip just works itself great for overtaking opportunities. Saw plenty in those, including that very impressive move by Sergio Perez, three wide at the end of main straightaway.
Yeah, that's probably the most impressive thing he's done all year or during his entire Red Bull tenure, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, not a whole lot of highlights from him since Montreal when they announced he got his contract extension just started to slide. I honestly thought, oh boy, we're going to see the three of them crash, but when he pulled it off, that was just great effort. And the battle between, I believe it was Lawson and Kevin Magnussen on the opening lap, how did they not crash the two of those bump in first lap? I thought we're going to get a safety car. I don't know how they managed to keep going. It was a thrilling race. Of course, like any race, you're going to have a race where the battle for the lead may not exactly be exciting, but with the passing going on, the championship battle, I think it was overall a great effort building our reputation up next year. Very excited for this race, F1 Academy as well. And I think the racing is going to be continuing to live up just because of this unique circumstances, the layout, the colder temperatures. Let's just see how it all plays out. Of course, two more races for Formula One, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, all right here on the Grid Network and Kobe. That will be the last series in the grid ranking running because World Rally Championship, a very dramatic end to their season.
Yeah, for sure. World Rally Championship season finale at Rally Japan, as you said, probably the most dramatic end into a championship in 2024 among all the series in the grid ranking. Thierry Neuville struggled on Saturday, ended up having a turbo issue, and it seemed like all hope was lost for Thierry Neuville. I remember reading about the turbo issue when it happened, and people were like, "This is in Octonic's hands right now. All he has to do is just do what he's doing, and he's gonna end up winning the championship." And then it seemed like Thierry Neuville was like, "I've come so close again, and it's all gonna be for naught." And Tonic, he was in the lead, looked like things were going well, like he was going to steal the championship from Newville. But on Sunday, state 17, about 100 meters from the end, Tonic went wide off the track, rolled the car over, and it was game over. Oh my goodness. Joe, when I saw this, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what is happening right now? How on earth could something like this happen to Tonic? He was this close, literally this close to winning a championship, and then it all went wrong. I don't want to compare it to, let's say, J.R. Hildebrand crashing out in turn 4 of the Indy 500 on the final lap, but that's almost what it was like in a certain way, because he was seriously super close to getting this championship. Definitely a heartbreaker for Octonic. But all in all, Thierry Neuville is finally a World Rally champion after being the bridesmaid, finishing second in the championship a total of 5 times. Now he is a World Rally champion. Did you think Thierry Neuville would lose the title at Rally Japan after the turbo issues? And was this a long time coming overall? What were your thoughts on this dramatic finish?
Oh man, long time coming. I thought Autonic had this with that turbo issue, the way it was formatted, where Sunday, I just knew he was going to go all out. And what was very interesting, because I know we chatted as it would happen. I watched a replay on Rally TV, and it was just so interesting because they were talking to, I believe it was OJ that had just finished the stage. So then they were going to switch over to Autonic. And just as they were going to follow him, that's when he goes wide in the ditch, rolls it. The commentators are just losing it. They just know this is massive moment, and it's over. The championship is over. This Autonic, he put everything on the line. I think a lot of people could say that's what you got to do when you're entering the race. Second place in the championship with one race remaining. You have to go all out. He did. He did everything he had to do. For Thierry Neuville, finally he got that World Rally Championship that has eluded him for such a long time. I know Saturday some of us were talking, and I was just saying, I feel if Neuville does not get this championship, it really hurts his potential career path because then people will just be saying he can't get the job done. Well, now he got the job done. Finally, the job has been completed. Hyundai, they got a driver that's claiming the World Drivers' Championship. But Harry Neuville, my goodness, I just was thinking everything he's been through as a driver. He's worked his ladder system up to get to this point, just so close so often. Would a mechanical issue really be it? But overall, he got the job done. But this was part of a very unique season of World Rally Championship, Kobe, where we saw not exactly like a traditional championship where you got your full time drivers taking most of the wins, and then maybe a part timer taking a win here or there. This was just a very unique season, and overall, I think for Neuville to finally get this championship, it's a good thing for him. But there's still a lot of questions about the state of the series, honestly, ahead.
Yeah, definitely. While we're concerned about the future of World Rally Championship here, definitely don't want to take away from the great championship that season that Thierry Neuville had. I know that, like you said, it's been a really strange season in World Rally Championship, unlike anything we've seen. But before, with all the part timers coming in winning, saw Sebastian Ogier, Kali Rovanpera win multiple races, even saw Esteban Galopi score a surprise win earlier in the season. And then Theory Newville, Optonic, Elfin Evans. Those have really been the three main protagonists in the championship battle this year and all of that. But Theory Newville definitely have to give him a lot of credit because finishing second 5 times has to be very frustrating to finally get that long-awaited World Rally Championship. This is definitely the cherry on top for his World Rally Championship career. And like I said, Joe, I thought it was all over for Theory Newville when he had the turbo issue because it seemed like it was he would need a miracle, to end up recovering from this. And he got that miracle at the very end when Tonic ended up crashing out there, and helping Newville win the championship there, but definitely quite a dramatic finish to this title battle. And with Tonic crashing, we saw Toyota end up taking the manufacturers championship. It was a season where most of the races, been won by part-timers. I've been saying a new point system was created to emphasize, the action on Sunday, which may be changed next year. And there are also rumors of teams potentially leaving WRC. Joe, how will the 2024 season be judged, and are you concerned about the future of World Rally Championship?
The 2024 season for World Rally Championship, I think, is going to be judged as maybe one of the more unusual seasons. I know we talked about here, it felt like an identity crisis because you had part-time drivers of Sebastian Ogier, Kyle Rovanpera winning most of the races. For the longest time, Thierry Neuville at one win was the only full-time winner we had, full-time driver that had won a race this year. The championship, I'm glad Thierry Neuville got it. He earns the championship. He's raced so hard for it. But I think some of the skeptics are going to be saying, well, Elfin Evans didn't step up. That's part of racing. That's the way it goes. He beat everybody. But I think people are going to almost discredit Thierry Neuville just because of the way this was such a op season with the way everything had worked out. The fact that we're going to get potentially another championship season points format change, it's just one of those deals where I get what they did with this championship, where you want to put an emphasis on Sunday to make that more exciting. I mean, that's what led up to essentially what happened with Autonic. There were so many points on the line. He had to go out there, get as many points as possible, crash down. But we've seen in cases, including when TR Nuva had won a race, won the complete race weekend, but didn't leave with the most points. People complained about that. They're looking at adjusting, so that's going to be prevented from happening. There's rumors that what's the state of Hyundai's future? Toyota Gazoo, Ford M Sport, even the three teams. This, I think, is a little concerning, and especially we know how World Rally had the hybrid, dropped it. That can't be good for business. That can't be good for the teams to have these changes. It is starting to become a bit of a concern. I'm hopeful 2024 will be remembered as like exactly, okay, it was an odd season, just the way the circumstances work out. Hopefully 2025 will have a little bit more of a traditional points battle where we could see drivers such as Elfin Evans, Terry Newville, Autonic, all competing for the championship, competing for wins more frequent than anything. I think this has a lot of potentials, Kobe, World Rally Championship. They got a new calendar, of course, with everything going on. I think there is a huge interest in rally racing. The big thing is just making sure the partners are happy. And I think that's going to be very important. Be really interesting. I know there's always been the rumor World Rally is looking at coming back to the United States. If that happens, that'll be huge for this effort, but hopefully it's still a really good project they have because this year the racing was good. The championship battle, points wise, it was good. The competition level, the finish, I think out of all the series in the grid rankings, probably up there along with Formula E as one of the more entertaining points battle coming down to the end. But there's a lot of question marks about this series, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next few weeks and months ahead.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how World Rally Championship gets along next year, and hopefully, some of the scary rumors we heard, about teams leaving, maybe even lose a manufacturer, which would not be good at all for this championship. Hopefully that stuff will not happen. But like you're saying, Joe, you have to try to keep all your partners happy. And, that's not always an easy thing to do, with the rule change, with the, I believe they're removing the hybrid, if I'm correctly, Joe. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it is. Mhm.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that's driving up costs with the hybrid. And we're also seeing this in the NTT IndyCar series as well. Saw Roman Grosjean recently go on the record says that the teams are getting priced out by this new hybrid engine that they've introduced in the IndyCar series, and as we saw in the LMP1 class in the World Endurance Championship, but quite a handful of years ago, that class went obsolete because the hybrids has got way too expensive, and end up that's why you only saw Toyota Gazoo racing, and they had basically had no competition for a few years before we went to the current regulation. But yeah, those hybrids get really expensive. So got to make your partners happy, got to control costs, and probably you don't want to see part timers ruling the championship as well. You want to see your full time drivers out there doing their things. And just brought up IndyCar. Joe has some breaking news on the NFL pregame show at NFL on Fox. They just announced that Pro Football Hall of Famer Michael Strahan is going to be driving the pace car for next year's Indianapolis 500. Really happy to see that Fox Sports, new broadcast partner for all the IndyCar races. All IndyCar races in 2025 are going to be shown on Big Fox every single race, which is an amazing TV deal that Penske Entertainment was able to secure with them. And it was really nice to see the new broadcast partner, going all out to promote IndyCar and the Indianapolis 500.
Very exciting news to hear. Of course, Fox, home of IndyCar for all 2025. And of course, as more developments during the offseason, still a lot of moving pieces there. Right here on Grid Network, Grid Tonight, Kobe and the crew, they'll be reporting on all the news. Now, of course, the grid ranking standings, they're going to be released a little bit later today, but we only have Formula One left. 2 race weekends for them, and then the 2024 grid ranking will be done. But overall, the championships for these 7 series, we've been seeing some interesting trends. Excluding NASCAR, of course, which utilizes a playoff system, all the points leader entering the last race of the year have claimed their respective series championship. Max Verstappen, Will Brown, the 2 drivers that claimed the championship prior to the start of the final race of the year. Pascal Wehrlein, Alex Palou, Jorge Martin, and Thierry Neuville all got their championships in the final race, with Verstappen, Palou, and Logano from NASCAR being repeat champions. Pascal Wehrlein, Jorge Martin, Will Brown, and Thierry Neuville are all first-time champions in their respective series. And of course, the grid ranking world champion, first time, Pecco Bagnaia, clinched the last race weekend, did not get the MotoGP championship. We'll have the grid ranking posted later today across social media. We got to wrap it up here. Kobe, it's time for our one shining moment.
Yeah, time for a great one shining moment from this racing weekend. And if you're watching live or on delay, please let us know down in the chat below what's the one thing that stood out to you the most from this weekend. I have 2 race weekends to choose from: the Las Vegas Grand Prix or Rally Japan. Joe, what's your one shining moment?
It's going to come from Rally Japan, and it's going to go to Thierry Neuville. He has gone through a lot as a driver for a World Rally Championship. He has been very much with the Hyundai team, bringing them wins. People think this is his year, then something goes wrong, or Sebastian Ogier throws a brilliant season, mistakes. A lot of times I kept thinking, okay, Thierry Neuville, this has to be his year entering. I kept thinking this has to be it. You don't have Colin Rovanpera. You don't have Sebastian Ogier. Your biggest competition was going to be Elfyn Evans, who has contended for championships against his former teammate Sebastian Ogier, and of course the other competition, Autonic. Elfyn Evans, this was not his year. Autonic, he came very close. Thierry Neuville had a good season. I think while people will say, well, you look at the wins, if you looked at who was not driving full time, how would that be different? The rules of the game, they were put in place. At the end of the day, Thierry Neuville, 2024 World Rally Championship, very good for him, I think, because a lot of people, if he had lost this championship, Kobe, I think a lot of people would be very critical of does he really belong on the starting lineup, which Yes, he does. I'm so glad he got it done because I think those people are going to be a little bit more silent now.
Yeah, for sure. Silencing all the haters if Thierry Neuville has any. But my one shot, I got to give it to Lewis Hamilton. Thought he was a really spectacular driver. Even won Formula One Driver of the Day, and I thought that was well deserved. Going from 10th on the grid all the way up to second. Definitely wasn't easy at all. But that Mercedes, they had the pace for some reason. This car really likes the cooler weather conditions, and Lewis was absolutely shining. Towards the end, Lewis, once he got up to second, he was actually flying and catching George Russell in a hurry, which led many of us to believe, could Lewis Hamilton potentially get to George Russell? It looked like he was. Like at the pace that he was at, he would probably catch him, maybe three laps to go. But fortunately, Lewis, pace kind of fell off towards the end. But all in all, still a solid drive for him to go from 10th to second on the grid. And like I was saying during our F1 segment, it would have been interesting to see what Lewis could have done if he qualified first or second, because George Russell had the clean air. He was able to control the race, and that was basically game over from there. But yeah, Lewis definitely has to be kicking himself for that poor qualifying effort in Q3, because otherwise we might be talking about another Lewis Hamilton victory and coming towards the end of his Mercedes tenure. That was definitely quite a special drive from him.
What a drive from Lewis, and of course, what a race weekend overall. Grid tonight, we got that coming up this week. Very quiet week, of course, the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. And then we'll be following Formula One for the next 2 rounds. And of course, the grid ranking will be updated over on our social media at Grid Network TV. So across social media, Grid Network TV on Blue Sky, X, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, gridnetworktv.com. All our articles are posted there. And we just want to thank everyone for tuning in to today's program. And of course, all our investors keeping us on the air. East way to invest in us, subscribe, hit the bell icon. For Kobe Lambeth, I'm Joe San Diego. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time.